African cybersecurity is growing rapidly, but true resilience is built by the operators behind the scenes. Today, I'm joined by the team behind Cyber83, and we're going to unpack what it really takes to build and scale a cybersecurity business. With me, I've got Mark Anthony Salgado and Karel Holtzhausen, the co-founders of Cyber83. Karel and Mark don't just talk about cybersecurity, they're running it. They're growing teams, they're responding to incidents, and they are scaling and running a very successful cybersecurity business in South Africa and beyond. So Mark and Karel, thanks for joining me. It's wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
On Resilience Unplugged. So for those that don't know anything about Cyber83, can you explain in simple terms what Cyber83 does?
So what does Cyber83 do? So we've looked at the market and there was a lot of mixed, everyone was trying to do everything back then, 2019, 2018, I think that's where the market was. We got fed up and we said, but who's really looking after cybersecurity? So we see ourselves as a managed part or managed cybersecurity company that becomes an extension of your team. So that's how we see each other.
And can I ask about the name? Because I did turn it around in my mind a few times on Cyber's obvious one, but the 83, I thought, was that someone's birth year? Or how?
So I think when we started, we obviously wanted a name that contained the word cyber in it. So that's the easy part. The 83, the domain was available. So that was one of it. We both born in 83. So that was coincidence, or maybe not. And the third one that cemented it for us is the first internet connection, the first TCP/IP connection was established in 1983. So it was the birth of the internet as we know it, the start of all the problems and cybersecurity problems. So that's basically how the name got together. It's got a lot of meaning to it, actually.
I know. I always think a name's incredibly important. It's more important, I think, than most people think. So obviously at the time, we're talking 2018, 2019 when you started.
Yeah.
At the time, obviously a business is, you decide to start a business for a reason. There's either a problem you're addressing or there's a need that you feel is not being addressed by the current market. And you alluded to it slightly in the beginning, Mark, but what would you say was the growing need or the growing problem that you saw that really was not being addressed?
Yeah, I think there was no focus on cybersecurity, to be honest. I think everybody was trying to do everything, and you had these large IT corporates, doing your infrastructure and your security. And I think a lot of companies or customers that we saw back then, they were burning through cash, and there was no one really providing value or service to them. And there was no one basically saying, look, the cybersecurity landscape is changing. There's massive risks. How do we step into that and become the niche provider of being able to hold your hand through that journey? And I think that's the gap that we spotted in the market in 2018 and 2019. And I think the cybersecurity market in South Africa was just starting then, and I think we got in at the right time. So a bit of luck as well. But yeah, that was probably the niche that we saw, and we held our customers' hands and delivered good service.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that in those days, as you said, there were a lot of large system integrators, and I think I look at quite a few of the niche cybersecurity businesses, and they definitely have addressed that need of where customers want that, I can almost say, bespoke service.
Yeah.
And I think the industry goes in ebbs and flows in that. I think that, for a CIO or a CISO to go with a large system integrator, no one's ever going to say, listen, why did you go with them?
Exactly.
So I think it takes a lot to build, a niche company. And then at the time, obviously you were working somewhere, so you were in the corporate world. And what made you decide not to stay in the corporate world and to go out on your own? Because it's a question I ask myself quite often.
Yeah, I think for us, it comes back to the same point. We were in the corporate world where they were trying to do everything right. And myself and Mark had this passion for cybersecurity, and that's all we wanted to do. Mark always had the saying, if you're going to make hot dogs, make the best hot dogs, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how it started, and that's why we left the corporate. We thought if, on our own, we don't have that much limitations or rules to play with, we could really redo cybersecurity in the way we wanted to and that we think customers really need. And yeah, that's why we took the jump.
And in your first year, I love this question. So in your first year, maybe not your first year, maybe first year or two, what was the scariest moment that you had where you thought, oh, what have we done? And I'm sure there might have been a few. And I want to know, the second part of that question is, who has the most scariest moments, or probably moments of doubt, and who's the one that generally says to the other one, okay, listen, it's okay?
I think this is a hard question, but I think we're both delusional. And I think if you're going to start a business, you have to be delusional, right? Because the first 3 months, we were at coffee shops planning, getting our stuff, meeting customers. We never had the thought, what if this fails? Even though our bank accounts were going, all the way to zero, we're pumping in money and trying to get everything up and going. But I think our first year, the biggest scare is 6 months after we started Cyber83, COVID was announced. And we were like, oh,
yes, of course.
This is interesting. What are we going to do if we lock down and we can't go see customers? And it worked out. I think us being in the COVID realm and that shift to everybody working from home, it opened up a lot of doors for us, because no one was geared to service those type of customers, and the customers weren't ready to go into lockdown mode. Everybody built this massive fortress on the edge, and all of a sudden your edge is not at HQ, it's sitting at the house. And that was a big scare for us. We had signed office leases, etc. And we had to change the whole way we work. Everybody started working from home, and we had to service the customers from home. So that was probably the biggest scare. Thinking like, how are we going to survive during COVID? But as your name says, resilience, you've got to have some resilience and push through and get there.
And you pivoted, and I think if you're small enough, you can pivot.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know at the time we all did very well, and it was really about being agile and pivoting and saying, okay, things have changed. You can't do things how we used to. So maybe it was an accelerator almost. I mean,
I believe so. I think it gave us time to get our notes down, get our processes, procedures down. Also, we had a lot of opportunities during that. I think we signed up a lot of customers. Look, there was rough moments that we thought, okay, well, we got this opportunity to do a website. So we're like, maybe we should build this person's website. But those are things where you start pivoting, and we just got to get back in line. And I think we've got such a good relationship when it comes to that it's just like, if we mess up, it's like we tap ourselves on the back and just go have a coffee, lick your wounds, and then start again. So it's all about resilience at the end of the day, and just keep on pushing. So
and don't be hard on yourselves. And I think that's where a partnership is. And I had this discussion in a podcast I've done before. And they very rarely, in my opinion, from my sample size of one, they very rarely work out incredibly well. And when they do, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So I think the two of you I think you're fortunate. And I think, as you say, luck has got something to do with it. But I think if you partner with the right person, I think the sky's the limit. Yeah,
I can't disagree with that. I think... it's always difficult. Like, everybody always asks us, what do you do? What does Karel do? But it's just, what is there to be done? If I'm at my desk, I'll do it. If he's at his desk, he'll do it. We just work seamlessly with one another. And I think that's rare. The thing is decisions are made quick in 5 minutes. It's a quick phone call. Hey, this is the problem. You're okay with it? He's okay with it. We move forward. There's no, 1 hour sessions, red tape, boardroom discussions. And I think that also goes to your one question where you said, why leave the corporate world? They're not moving fast enough in the corporate world. We've got to be agile out there.
Yeah, I think we also, our vision and mission, what we want to do with customers and teams, all the same. I think that makes it easy, right? We don't argue about things like that. We always fight for what's best for the customers. So we've got the same passion for that, and I think that makes it easy to work together.
I think at the end of the day in this industry, and I said it when we first started, was a lot of people are losing sight of the most important person, and that's the customer.
Yeah.
And whatever we do, we've got to make sure that we're serving the customer and we're looking after their needs. Where are their pain points? What are they struggling with? What's keeping them up at night? And I think that's really what you base your business on. You can't just take something to market that you think is needed or is necessary or you'd like to. Is there a need for it? Is there a want for it?
Yeah.
And I think as well, Mark, going back to what you said about being focused. And in the beginning, it's difficult because you're entrepreneurial, you want to make money, and you want the income to come in, but is building websites part of your DNA? It's not, but it's very tempting, and I know it's very tempting to think, well, let's go here. And obviously we're in the early days, and we just have to focus. I always say, if you chase 5 rabbits, you're going to catch none. Just chase the one.
That's it.
And it's very difficult as an entrepreneur not to chase 10. Because I've seen many very good entrepreneurs, but they're chasing 10 rabbits.
Yeah.
And it's risky.
Yeah.
Very.
So I think being true to what you do. And I think I always ask myself this question, but if you had to look back, like often you say, look back at your 10-year-old self or your 15-year-old self, what advice would you give? If you ever to look back at yourself, both of you in your first year or two of starting, what advice would you go back and give yourself?
That's an interesting one.
I think, I would just say keep going. I mean, I think there's nothing that I would change the way we do it, to be honest with you. I don't think there's anything I would do differently. I think even the bad that we spoke about, the COVID part, it actually changed the way we employed people. So I think there's nothing I would change about it, to be honest with you. I think,
Listen, it's believe. I mean, it's believe, keep going, don't give up. And it's not easy. I always remind myself, if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. Everyone's not doing it.
See, I've got a lot of grey hair that happened.
I know. I do too. Apparently, I do too. He just told me the other day I'm getting a lot of grey. I said, yeah, I can tell you why. So, for the viewers who aren't in security, you've got a security operations center, but obviously we call it a SOC. We're an industry of acronyms. But so you've obviously built your own SOC, and there are obviously a lot of global players coming in and offering a SOC service, a full managed service. And what do you think makes Cyber83 competitive in our local market?
Again, trust in being with that customer and holding their hand. If you look at the market and you look at how the SOC MDR play is going out at the moment, it's very about pay me the money, I'll look for an incident, and I'll let you know when it happens, right? But the customer is very disengaged from that service. They're not in your face, they're not helping you drive security, getting your posture right, etc. So we approach it very different. I'm not going to give the secret sauce on how we do it, but we help the customer get there. If we see the alert that MFA is not enabled on this customer, we don't just stop there. We'll go look and how do we automate this to make sure that this is enforced for future. So another acronym I'm throwing in there, but our goal is not just to be a box dropper or someone that takes your money and will alert you or send you a report once a month, and it's an automated report. The personal touch is in there. Probably the hardest thing to scale. I mean, Karel always says, scaling the personal touch is probably the hardest thing anyone can do. But I think we've got a secret sauce, good people, and our goal is to drive that journey with the customer. And I think no one's doing SOC the way we do it. It's quite interesting the way we do it. And I think that's the big part of it. So yeah.
I think which leads me to your team, because I think that how big is the team now?
20 in South Africa, another 10 in Philippines, and then 2 in Australia.
Okay, so it's a big team. So obviously over time, and you've obviously gone out of Africa, and you've expanded. And I think that in the beginning, it's really easy when you've got a small team for culture, for employing the right people, and it's always difficult once you scale.
Yeah.
And so how have you managed that? Because it's always an interesting one for me, because the minute you start getting over, I would say probably 10, 15 people, you start your small team, like should I say family culture does change.
Yeah.
And I remember scaling and everyone going, well, we don't know if we like this so much because it's changed. But I mean, it's obviously all of our aspirations to grow.
Yeah.
But with that growth comes, it is a bit of a challenge in getting those people right and keeping your culture as it was. So do you think, obviously you're geographically spread. Have you managed to keep a Cyber83 culture, and there's a specific person you look for or kind of person that blends with, with your actual culture and your DNA?
Yeah, I think we've built a unique interview process, how we get new people. to make sure our culture can, spread to them as well. So that's probably the most important part of the scaling, is getting the right people into the culture. And our team is really good at, taking on new people into the team, right? And making sure that they're part of the culture. And that's important, because that you can't scale without people. I think that's really important. And I think the second part of scaling for us is making sure we can put the right systems in place from an automation perspective. And then, people, process. If you can balance that right, you can scale. But it's easier said than done. So.
Yeah.
And letting go sometimes, that's the big thing, As a founder, you get so heavily involved in every single process, day-to-day operations, you're doing everything from marketing to the tea lady, etc. But you're very involved when it comes to deployments. You're very involved in the sales, the closing of things. And I think the big thing is you've hired someone, you've grown them to a certain point, and sometimes you just got to step back and let them do it, right? Sometimes trust. Right? You might have some grace with one or two customers, you might not have with the others, but the customers that you have the trust and the grace with, they know that you're doing everything that you can for them. So even if we do make a mistake, we'll get it resolved. But letting go, it's a scary thing.
And I think you've got which I know you have, because I've obviously worked with you for many years, you've got a really good relationship with your customers. There's a mutual respect there. And I remember not getting involved in a negotiation years ago, and the vendor called me and said, why are you stepping back? I said, because the team has run with it.
Yeah.
He said, well, it's frustrating. I said, it's frustrating, but it'll happen, and the next time it'll be easy.
Yeah.
But because he trusted me, and he said, I see what you're doing. I get it. And I said, sorry, this is the way it goes. Everyone's got to have an opportunity to step up. Someone gave me an opportunity to step up.
That's it.
They weren't convinced I could have done it, but they gave it to me, and we've got to trust that other people will do it. And if there's a mistake, it happens.
It happens. I mean, we just recently left, and we stepped back. We were in Portugal at the time for a conference, and we landed. I mean, we were flying for 24 hours straight. Landed, and something happened in our server environment. It brought a whole bunch of things down. We weren't there to fix it, so you kind of just got to say, okay, I hope they get it right. You have a sip of your coffee, you help on the phone where you can, but we weren't the ones to fix it. It was good to see our team step up and lead and actually take charge, and it gave us the confidence that if something else goes wrong in the future, that they can take care of it. And I think it all boils down to getting the right people, getting the right culture, because culture beats process 100 times over. And I think if you've got the right culture and the trust with the customers, you buy a lot of leeway, but you've got to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So that's the source as well there.
Yeah, if you make a mistake, then I was happy for a mistake. Just don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah,
that was my golden rule. That's what I always said. So African cybersecurity. So do you think that in Africa we collaborate enough? I'm talking the continent because you work across the continent, but do you think there's enough collaboration amongst cybersecurity companies, organizations, the industry? Do you feel that we collaborate enough?
That's an interesting one, because I feel some companies do, some companies don't. They almost keep their cards close to their chest. But the market's big enough in Africa for us to all work together. It's almost like the thing that if you found these credentials of a competitor on the dark web, do you tell them? We come from the point of view is like, yes, let's help them, because we're building resilience, we're building a culture of sharing. We've joined different community groups on the cyber front. Some companies that don't want to share, I feel that they are a bit insecure with the environment, and I think the more people share, the more resilient we can become in the market. Carry on saying resilient, Toni.
No, it was a good name. It was a good name. It was a good name. I must say, it was a very good name. So I think that there could be more collaboration. I really do. I think that obviously from sitting from a distributor and a services perspective, I obviously have the privilege, I think, of liaising with all the resellers, customers, and other distributors. So, and I think we should collaborate more. And I often think that there should be a few more forums than there actually are, that companies can share challenges, share successes, be able to pick up the phone and say, this is what happens. I think that the that the customers are really good at it. I think the financial sector are excellent at it. I think they're very much so all in sync with one another, which I think is admirable. But I think from a reseller distributor, I would like to see more collaboration. I think there's so many resellers these days that are specialists in what they do. And I think that if you can, refer people to other businesses, that's what I always do. You know, if I know someone's a specialist, I'm always happy to guide business their way. And I think that I think we could collaborate more. I think that's in any country, in any industry.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that could be it. And a funny one, so I know, because I've obviously had these conversations with you before, but and you've told me a few, but what is the craziest call you've ever had? Because
you can answer that one, Mark. We had a few.
You've had a few.
We had a few. I think being a cybersecurity, obviously you've got presence on the internet, so you get funny people phoning you. So we had girlfriends and boyfriends and moms phoning us, wanting to hack their phones and stuff so that they can get images of people or stuff. So we had a few funny calls like that, and then we had one or two funny customer. Mark's got a funny customer, or not funny one, a scary customer story actually. We had and this probably talks to our culture, but we had a phone call that came through at like 7 o'clock at night, and it was someone that said, they've been breached, and everything is like not working. Their TVs have gone offline. There's computers don't work anymore. And it goes to our culture that the one consultant just jumped in and said, we're going to go and help you. So we climbed in the car 7:30 at night, and one of our threat intelligence team, they went out. It wasn't a corporate customer, so it was a personal customer, which we shouldn't have gone out because it wasn't corporate related. But when we got there, we actually felt sorry for the gentleman, because he heard voices coming from the bushes, and he heard voices in his roof, and he thought that they planted microphones everywhere. We determined there was obviously something mentally wrong with him, but it was scary for us because our culture of always wanting to help led us into quite a risky situation. At first, you almost got to take it with a pinch of salt, like where are you hearing these voices? What is wrong with your TV? And then we realized that it was deeper than that. But that's why we always stick to corporate and enterprise, because the phone calls we get is, my girlfriend, I need to, stalk her, I need to plant, stuff. And we just say, sorry, we only do corporate clients because of that. So, I think that, look, if anyone, back to your question, Toni, if anyone's looking for a entrepreneurial journey right now, there's a niche market to help people.
You're not willing to do it, but if any of you are willing to do it, there's a business idea for you. Good luck with that. But
if someone finds a way to scale it correctly, then that's fine.
But it speaks to your culture, though. It speaks to the fact that you got in the car 7:30 in the evening and went. That really is us, and it's dangerous, and I wouldn't recommend it. But it does, like you say.
Yeah, we got a mini heart attack when we found out at 9 o'clock that someone went to someone's personal house, and then we just had to guide that culture a little bit better there. But again, just goes to the culture of like, oh, you got a problem, I'm coming to help.
We can solve it.
Which is dangerous sometimes, especially with personals.
It is. And then obviously the most rewarding moment of when you sit and you think, that immense sense of satisfaction of this is why we do what we do. This is why we do it. Because you're handling very sensitive, it's sensitive what we do, let's be honest. So, and we're not saving lives, but we're performing a very important role. And when was that moment when?
We had a few. I think the latest one was now recent. I think 4 weeks ago, we had a customer, big supply chain breach. We did everything right. Customer did everything right. One of the security vendor that they used got breached. And we stopped the breach before anything serious happened. And I think that's where we saved money, reputation, jobs. And I think that's that moment where you go, this is why we do it. Because it wasn't marketing. There was nothing to show for it. Nobody knew about it. But we just, big corporate, and you've done what you needed to do. So, it was now. Get goosebumps talking about it.
You see, and I think that as you're building that, you celebrate those small wins.
Yeah.
That's a big win. But the small wins, when you solve a problem and you stop a breach, and I think that it's those kind of things that you must just make sure you keep celebrating. I mean, Mark, before we started, you said, it's already March, and where's the year gone? And we have to live in the moment. We've got to enjoy stuff. And I think that when you're building and scaling a business, it's hard work.
Yeah.
And I think that you sometimes lose sight of the wins you have along the way, and the situations that you saved, and the customers that you literally saved.
Yeah.
So, in essence, I suppose we are saving lives to a degree, but we're saving their careers and their businesses, which impacts thousands of lives. So, I just think it's important that we just take stock and say, okay.
Yeah, very important. I think sometimes we forget, and we're all in the rat race. But I think that's where the personal touch comes in. Don't forget to tell the customer he's doing a good job. All the time I hear, we got breached, fire the CISO or fire the IT security manager. And I always say, that's great, but there's no university or school or job that's going to teach you that on-hands experience of going through a breach. And that experience is invaluable. Look, if he still does not put in controls after that, then fine, fair enough. But I mean, that experience that you go through while going through a breach is so invaluable that I almost think that anyone who's gone through that, hire them in a heartbeat, because they're going to take security as seriously as you want to push it. So yeah.
I was about to say that. I would say keep them.
Yeah.
Because he's never going to make that mistake. Not he's never going to. It wasn't a mistake that he made, but he'll make sure that, like you say, all the controls are in place. And I think there's a lot to be learned in those situations. There's high pressure, and it's high pressure.
We see it all the time in tabletops. I mean, Karel can attest to that. We sit in tabletops, and we launch a scenario, especially with the board or execs. And you can see everybody's like, okay, what do we do now? No one knows that they have to pick up a policy document, follow the process. No one knows where to. They don't know where to get it. But I promise you that IT manager or security officer that went through that incident, he'll be the first one to tell you where to get it and what to do.
And that's why those simulations are so important, because the technical team, absolutely, they generally, when we go into organizations, the technical team know exactly what to do. It's when it comes to executives, who does the phone call, what decisions you make, how do you do this? It's a lot more on the executive tabletops, I found, is where there's probably more work to be done.
Yeah.
I think generally the technical teams are pretty slick, most that we've come across.
Yeah, and I think in larger corporates, it's not just executives. We've seen it at the normal staff level. People doing the day-to-day work, accounting or whatever, they don't always know what to do when an incident happens. Who do they call internally to escalate to? So it starts from the bottom all the way to the top. So yeah,
and that's why they're so important.
Yeah.
So when you started, you obviously had a vision. I called it my North Star. So you had a vision of what you saw Cyber83 becoming. So from when you started, do you think your North Star is the same, or do you think that it's changed?
I think it's still relatively the same. I think our goal that we wanted to do and the passion we had, and the drive is still there. That hasn't changed at all. I think we did adapt a little bit to the market and what customer needs today, and I think the market is also changing quite quickly. So you can't be stuck in one lane. But yeah, I think our North Star is still there, but we need to adapt a little bit around it. But yeah.
It's about, I suppose, your North Star, I suppose, for me, would be your customer always.
Yeah, it's always the customer. We've even got a thing in the company where we say we don't do politics or anything, but we welcome arguments for the better of the customer. If you argue or fight internally to get a better outcome or security for a customer, anytime. We're happy for anybody to challenge anybody on that outcome if it's best for the customer. So we still believe that. So.
And customer challenges are changing. I mean, you can't have a discussion these days without mentioning AI. And I know that's like this, we all of it, it's been overused, but it is a reality. And I think that customers are being faced with a lot more than they have before. And I think it's coming at them at a pace. And I think, I don't know how you guys are.
Yeah. I think the pace, you said it there, Toni. If you take a look at when ChatGPT launched or Grok or all these tools, you're looking at about 6 to 7 months ago, and you start to see what it's done and what it's doing. Probably like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you tell your kids, go study to be a web developer, go study to be a program developer. Would you tell them that now? Probably not, because AI codes better than most people, right? So yeah, it's different.
Yeah, I think the interesting one in the AI space at the moment is when that new Claude Karel last tool launched, the whole cybersecurity market crash. Wiped out $2 million, and it's scary. I think people think AI is going to replace security. I think there's a bigger need for it as we go into this.
I agree.
So I think it's actually the opposite. I think the share prices should have increased instead of decreased.
Yeah.
So it's gonna change quickly. I think the key is going to be to use it to defend against AI tools. So it's going to be how humans use the tools, not just leaving the tools do it on its own.
Yeah. And being the connection to the customer. I mean, AI is going to speed up your delivery of services, right? But how do you convey that personal touch message still with the customer to the AI? How do you bridge that interface? And I think that's where the hybrid approach comes in, and we call it hybrid AI. And that's what we do, a lot in our SOC. It's a lot of AI that's involved into it, etc. But also the human element, because you can't miss that human element, or else you got no one to sell to or no one to actually look after. So
And listen, I mean, AI has been embedded in our security tools.
Yeah.
Way before anyone even spoke about it. I mean, it's kind of been part of our DNA for so long, and now just as consumers, we're using it a lot more.
Yeah.
I just fear that with the use of it, I think it's incredible, and I think it gives us time to do all those mundane tasks that ordinarily would take a long time. In our business, we're looking at automating a whole lot of stuff, and I'm sure you've done the same.
Yeah.
And it just frees up time to be more creative.
That's so true.
So, instead of doing all these, I just think it gives us just space to think and be creative, and I think that's what we're lacking. You know, I think we all just so, on this highway, where actually sometimes where are we going? Like sometimes as a founder, you need to look up and say, okay, like that's where we're heading. Yeah. And you've obviously grown over the years and you've expanded into different territories. I know we're speaking to a very happy customer of yours that isn't based in South Africa.
Oh, that's good.
And so are you looking at expanding any further, or?
We are. I think I'm going to mention now. Yeah, but we are. I think it's... there's a big market out there as well. I think South Africa for us stays a key important part of it. Yeah. There's a lot for us to still do here, but we're definitely expanding internationally. So I think over the next 2 years we'll open up some more locations.
And it's interesting, it's not by wanting to expand. You take that entrepreneurial approach where opportunity arises, so you want to take that opportunity, but it happens. Opportunity arose because of customer delivery, customer service, and word of mouth. And I mean, we're operating now from the States into the UK, into Europe, Middle East, into APAC region. And Africa is such an untapped market at the moment, and I think Africa in the next 5 years is just going to explode. I really think the growth will come out of Africa, but it's crazy to see what doing the right things. You'll only see the result in like 2 or 3 years later, right? And I think that's the big thing. Do the right things. Make sure you keep the customer happy. Deliver on them, make sure you maintain their trust, and the rest will come. Just have fun while you're doing it. So,
yeah, exactly. And I think it's as you scale, the same as like we discussed culture. I think that as you scale, you still have to keep that personal touch, and that level of service can't drop.
No,
because if it does, then you are, then you lose your DNA. So I think that from what I've heard, I mean, that I refer your business often, but.
Thanks,
and it's reputation, and I think that is in life what we have is our reputation, and I think you guys have done well with that, and I think that's what I think that's what's really, that's what's cool. I believe that's what's, you're going to continue to grow and grow and grow. Whether your aspirations were to be a massive business, I think just from, like you say, word of mouth, customer satisfaction levels, being true to what you said you're going to do and you deliver on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the times where people say, well, this is what we're going to do for you. And when it comes down to it, it doesn't work out that way. Big promises are made. A lot of big promises are made. I don't think just in the cybersecurity industry, I think in overall.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you guys have been true to. So, I commend you for it. And one more question is, if you had to give advice, obviously I'm very passionate about the youth, and we've got a young continent. And what advice would you give like a young cybersecurity entrepreneur entering our industry today?
I think the technical depth is important. I think a lot of people want to just get into it and they want to do a lot of things in cybersecurity, but they don't really get into a specific topic or anything. So I think you need to become good at something again, right? Focus on something. So I think that's the key thing. Go work in some industry somewhere or some area in cybersecurity, but focus there and build technical depth around it, and then start moving across other areas in cybersecurity. I think you have to start there. You can't just, you have to do the actual hard bit of it. You can't just walk in and be good at it, right?
And it's almost like all or nothing, dreams is where ideas go to die. So if you don't take action on those dreams, you'll never know. And Karel says this all the time: if you're going to fail fast. And that's the truth of it. Like, anything, any new service we've launched, if we launch it and there's no traction, we failed quickly, and let's just change the service around, So take that shot, fail. I wish I could go back to when I was 18 years old and probably start 3 or 4 businesses and failed at all of them, and I'd probably have all my school fees to take into Cyber83. But also, don't be too hard on yourself, because timing is everything. And sometimes, you could start a business at 20 and be successful. You could start a business at 50 and be successful. Timing is everything. And probably if we started 10 years earlier, we wouldn't have succeeded. So starting later actually helped us, because we had more relationships, we understood the industry better, etc. So, everything is based on what you need at that time. And I think action is key. So start something, do.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, do it.
Just do.
I think the things you say that I've resonated with a lot are: keep going, be kind to yourself. I think people are far too hard on themselves.
Yeah.
Timing has something to do with it. Luck has something to do with it.
Yeah.
And all those things play. So whenever I speak to young people, it's about just believe.
Yeah.
Believe, keep the road. And like you say, if it doesn't work, well, then turn left, turn right. You don't have to keep going straight.
Yeah,
there's
adapt.
always a pivot. There's always a change. And there's always a lesson. And sometimes, we learn, well, not sometimes, I think always we learn the most from the hardest lessons.
That's true.
No one ever learns something out of a fantastic, amazing experience,
That's true.
I think that we learn a lot through the tough times. And often people, and this is what I said in my one podcast with Martin and Stephen, was that people only see the success.
Yeah.
They don't see behind the scenes of the doubt, the stress, the worry, the financial drain, all of those things. Everyone just sees, okay, a thriving business, you're doing well, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. And I think that going back to Karel, what you said about the technical skills is do that, because trust me, you need to understand what you're talking about and what you're doing. I don't want to hear I'm not technical, I don't know. That's not an answer. And I think that if you want to be in the space, you need to make an effort to understand and to know. It's an incredible industry. It's always changing. There's always something new. It's the most dynamic industry ever.
Never a dull moment, right? Like,
never a dull moment.
And it's not boring. Let's put it that way. You wake up every morning, there's a new challenge, a new task, and sometimes there's things that happen in cybersecurity that there is no manual for. There is no guide, and you just gotta
First one to figure it out.
Yeah, first one to figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think from this conversation, I think if we take one thing, I think it's that Africa's not waiting to be protected.
No.
We're building our own capability. which I think is phenomenal. And I look at our banking sector at how mature it is. When I speak to other financial institutions based overseas, they can't believe how advanced we are. Yeah. So I just think as a proud African, I think I commend both of you, because you're providing your services to global companies that aren't based here. And I think it's amazing. And I think that the future of cybersecurity in our region is going to be shaped by people like yourselves, by the operators, by the founders, and by the teams that are doing all the work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I think that's where resilience is built, is through execution and not noise. We're actually actioning it. We're doing it.
Yeah.
So well done to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me. And thanks for your honesty.
Pleasure.
Thanks for your leadership and most certainly the meaningful contribution that you've made to, I believe, the cybersecurity ecosystem. So thank you very much.
No,
it's lovely to have you.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
And for all our viewers, thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to watch more, please go to our YouTube channel, Resilience Unplugged, and please subscribe. Thank you.